I also did the introduction and the organization of induction training courses for newly deployed United Nations multinational police forces, the ANMIC forces, basically dealing with the policing issues in Kosovo. Likewise, the development and introduction of coordination mechanisms among the 4 pillars, as you know, that they are there under the United Nations mission, as well as the coordination mechanism between United Nations interim administration in Kosovo and the non-governmental organizations at regional and municipal levels throughout Kosovo. These were some of the specific concepts and mechanisms that I developed personally, designed and introduced at that time, plus the concept of even common license plates for public and privately owned vehicles that were in Kosovo, for the sake of ensuring a wider and safe freedom of movement of members of minority communities and for improving the inter-ethnic confidence there. I also developed and introduced the concept of civil-military cooperation between the United Nations mission in Kosovo, the civilian and administrative components that they were there, including the United Nations mission in Kosovo, the Kosovo police, the United Nations police, the KFOR, and the contingents throughout that territory. And the way, actually, based on this mechanism, that they should work together and cooperate with each other within the framework of our entire peacekeeping and peace-building operations in Kosovo.
Could you tell us how long did it take for the United Nations to accomplish the tasks that had to be achieved under emergency phase in Kosovo? And what was the next phase that Kosovo entered afterwards?
Well, I really enjoy the systematic nature of and the sequences of your questions, which in many ways makes it very easy for me to answer them. You see, every phase of a United Nations administration have left behind, every phase that the United Nations and its mission have left behind have been parts and parcels of a single UN-facilitated peace process in Kosovo, as envisaged. They are all envisaged by the provisions of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1244. What we accomplished during emergency phase prepared the grounds for the next phase of the peace process. That is to say, the very phase of the establishment of institution of self-government in Kosovo, first in the form of joint interim legislative, executive and judiciary institutions, and then in the form of permanent and elected institutions. On the road towards the establishment of self-government, among other essential tasks, the first phase of civil registration, I must say, was completed throughout the Kosovo in July 2000, forming basically the basis, the foundation for the first municipal elections that were held successfully in October 2000. Furthermore, with the Kosovo-wide elections that took place in November 2001, and the executive arrangements that were introduced in line with the provisions of the constitutional framework for Kosovo, then the way was further paved for self-government as one of the major objectives, again as anticipated by the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1244. As I highlighted already, and it's enshrined in the constitutional framework document, Kosovo for the first time formed its government and principal institutions of self-government on their own, which is presently in place following 2 free and fair elections there. Not only that, but some other useful steps were also taken towards the formation of, as I mentioned earlier, of new Kosovo police forces that we call KPS. The transfer of policing responsibilities, which was done at the beginning by the ANMIC police to these newly born forces of KPS or Kosovo Police Services, and similar work is underway, I must say, in the field of judiciary. We are going to transfer the competencies and responsibilities from the international judges to the newly born and established judicial authorities in Kosovo. So basically, a quick glance at the present and past clearly shows that a lot has been accomplished with so much energy, enormous costs in huge investment under each of the every specific phases of the United Nations facilitated peace process in Kosovo, with a clear vision of what needs to be achieved before and during the status talks for determining the future status of Kosovo.
How do you assess Kosovo today as compared to the kind of Kosovo we had yesterday?
I believe that as the United Nations facilitated peace process in Kosovo enters its sixth year now, it's quite interesting to assess as to where we have got with regard to our task of establishing a sustainable and self-governing Kosovo. As I explained earlier, when we arrived in Kosovo in June '99, Kosovo was confronting an emergency phase, with thousands of people homeless, public services in cause, and businesses all at standstill. Since then, the situation has completely changed. The emergency was clearly over within a few months after our arrival, after the arrival of the United Nations and its peacekeeping operation, with at least some shelter became available for all schools, hospitals, utilities, and other public services, sort of to say, became operational, and the evidences of a rapidly growing and thriving private sector emerged. Yet much, I know, remains to be done. Of some 120,000 homes that were destroyed and damaged during the conflict, the rebuilding of just a small portion of that has remained, and the rest have been accomplished. In terms of rebuilding, the process of rebuilding, I should say, is still going on. Energy, water, and other utilities are more reliable now, which was not existing at that time. Most schools and health centers are now open. The situation with unemployment is slowly improving, and the private sector now operates with the support of modern regulatory framework or access to credit and capital investment essential for Kosovo's robust economic growth and development. It's under such circumstances that the task of building a new Kosovo now faces the international community. We have come far enough from the dark past of Kosovo. However, one should look forward to the time when the challenge for the government in Kosovo will no longer be the challenge of development, but it should be, I must say, not the challenge of survival, but the challenge of development, economic growth, and viability of a Kosovo that we all need to see in multi-ethnic form, rather, as I said, the challenges of survival or reconstruction that we basically dealt during the emergency phase, as you have asked me.
What would be a future Kosovo like, and what are the major challenges for tomorrow?
Well, in order to reflect upon the future and to see as to what is going to happen in the short term in Kosovo, I believe it's appropriate to reflect upon the great changes that have already taken place in Kosovo society within the last 5 years. No one needs to be reminded, as I said, Kosovo is a society that has much strain, much pain, in memories of the past. Tragic events are still fresh in many minds. However, there are promising signs that the divisions that split the society are starting to mend, fortunately. The democratic process has begun to have an effect, and the success of the electoral processes that I mentioned earlier in Kosovo points to a civilized future in Kosovo where differences and antagonism can and will be settled not only with bullets, but with ballots, with votes.